Good afternoon. Thank you guys for being here. We're grateful to stand here with Senator Luke DeMeyer. He'll have a few comments in a minute, but I just want to start off with a statement. As we near the end of another legislative session, and before we talk about the work that was accomplished, I'd love to recognize the people that made all of these work and goals possible. To Speaker Patterson, President Pro Tem O'Laughlin, Senator Luke DeMeyer, Representative O'Reilly, Riley. He's in Springfield, so I say O'Reilly. Committee chairs and all of the people who countless hours of effort to put together some difficult issues. I'm grateful for their work. I think we can agree that this session was productive and resulted in a monumental win for many Missourians. I also want to thank members of my cabinet, legislative and policy team, and the countless people behind the scenes that nobody gets to know are working, that have worked to get our priorities across the finish line. We have a great team here in the governor's office that work very well with our legislative leaders, and I'm grateful for those folks as well. And to every member of the 103rd General Assembly, Republicans and Democrats, members of the House and Senate, thank you for their work to the people of Missouri. I especially want to thank the members who are concluding their time in the Capitol this year. Many of them have decided dedicated years, and in some cases, decades, to serving their communities in our state. Their contributions helped shape Missouri for the better, and Claudia and I wish them and their families nothing but success in the next chapter of their lives. This public service is not easy, as we all know. It requires sacrifice, long hours away from family, difficult conversations, and a willingness to step into the arena every single day. And while we may not always agree on every issue, I believe Missourians are best served when leaders show up, work hard, and stay focused on results. This year, the General Assembly did exactly that. My team and I are reviewing the legislation that has been sent to my desk, but I want to touch on a few big wins that we've seen this session. The session was about making Missouri safer, stronger, and more competitive and more accountable to the people we serve. It was about keeping our promises and laying a foundation for growth. And nowhere is that clearer than the historic progress we made towards phasing out and eliminating Missouri's individual income tax. With the passage of these HJRs this year, Missourians will have the opportunity to decide the future of our tax code for themselves. This is a transformational moment for our state, and it's about more than just taxes. It's about growth. It's really about competitiveness, and it's about sending a message across the country that Missouri will compete and Missouri will win. We want families to keep more of what they earn from the start. We want entrepreneurs and job creators to choose Missouri. And we want the next generation to see opportunity at home instead of somewhere else. This session, legislators joined us in choosing growth, and we choose to continue to building a state where businesses invest, communities grow, and families can build a better future. But that didn't stop at tax reform. This year, we continue to strengthen public safety across our state by passing another Safer Missouri crime package in the form of Senate Bill 888. Through this bill, we took steps to stop the revolving door of violent offenders, strengthening sentence transparency, and ensure our criminal justice system has the tools needed to keep dangerous individuals off of our community streets. Our public safety budget proposals were also funded fully, including disaster relief funding, our Missouri Blue Shield program, and an incredibly successful Operation Relentless Pursuit initiative. We also passed House Bill 2641 to protect Missouri's consumers and children by cracking down on dangerous, intoxicating products being marketed with candy-like packaging and little oversight or accountability. Because Missourians deserve to know that products sold in their communities are safe, transparent, and properly regulated. We also passed legislation allowing law enforcement to counter drones that are a threat to public safety. This, in addition to budget items that were approved, will be helpful ensuring Missouri is prepared for a safe and a successful FIFA World Cup in Kansas City, just a few weeks off now. The General Assembly has also moved on important economic development legislation. House Bill 3231 has been a focus this week, which enables the Missouri Works program and helps Missouri compete for major capital investment projects, continuing to strengthen our workforce and economy through revitalization efforts. Because economic development is not just about bringing jobs here, it's about creating long-term opportunities for Missouri families and ensuring our state remains competitive nationally and globally. The General Assembly joined us in supporting education funding in all forms with historic K through 12 funding formula, child care for low-income families, and an additional $10 million for the Mo Scholars Program. And because unelected bureaucrats really should not act like kings, the General Assembly passed Senate Bill 863 to establishing a governing board for our mission. Nursing that decision impacts Missouri students are funded by taxpayers made openly, fairly, and responsibly. We look forward to signing this legislation and working with the General Assembly to appoint and confirm members to that board. We saw healthcare legislation that will lower costs for Missouri families pass this session, helping to make sure we maximize the reach of our rural healthcare transformation program, and I am grateful to our congressional delegation for ensuring Missouri was of the top 10 states to receive the most funding for this program. I was proud to sign legislation ensuring pregnancy is never a barrier to prevent a woman from seeking a divorce in unsafe situations. I appreciate greatly Representative Williams for her leadership and her courage in sharing her story, and thank both House and Senate for their unanimous support of House Bill 1908. Also this week, the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act was passed, another testament to Missouri's pro-life values and action here at the Capitol. Finally, I appreciate the General Assembly for their work to fund important services and priorities while also recognizing the challenging budget situation our state faces. As a reminder, since fiscal year 2022, more than 3,400 new budgetary items have been added to the state's operating budget, resulting in nearly $13 billion in new general revenue spending. We have to get back to the basics in our state budget. Missouri must continue living within its means, just like Missouri families do, and preparing for the realities ahead. Our team is already beginning the hard work of reviewing the budget and will carefully evaluate every item through the lens of fiscal responsibility, sustainability, and priorities that Missourians sent us here to do. That means protecting core services and investing strategically while also ensuring we are not creating long-term obligations that future Missourians will be forced to shoulder. Balanced budgets matter. Fiscal discipline matters. And I believe Missourians expect us to govern responsibly, not just for today, but for the future as well. We know we still have today and tomorrow to continue getting things done to benefit Missourians here in the state legislature, and I hope we are able to see some movement on agriculture tax credits and property tax reform. But I'm proud of what we've accomplished together this session. I also believe the work is just beginning. Missourians did not send us here to protect status quo. They sent us here to lead, to solve problems, to think long-term, and to leave this state stronger than we found it. This is exactly what this session was about. I'll be happy to take a few questions, but first I'd like to turn it over to Senator Luke DeMeyer. I appreciate his service to the state. He's become a great friend to not just Claudia and I, but to many Missourians, and I wish him success in the future. I know he's got a bright future ahead of him. Please welcome Senator Tony Luke DeMeyer.
Thank you, Governor, for having me here today. This year, the Missouri Senate Republicans delivered on several key priorities. We passed, and the governor signed into law, a public safety bill that is focused on protecting children, holding violent criminals accountable, and reducing early release for dangerous offenders. Too often, serious offenders are released after serving only a small portion of their prison sentence, creating uncertainty for both victims and for their families. This law improves transparency in sentencing by making sure that victims and families have a much more clear understanding of how long an offender is actually going to remain incarcerated. The law also strengthens penalties for those people who exploit children and closes loopholes that previously allowed some offenders to avoid meaningful consequences. This session, as the governor referenced, we also passed House Joint Resolution 173, which now goes to Missouri's voters. Elimination of the state income tax will represent, if passed, the largest middle-class income tax cut in our state's history. Right now, every working family has a portion of their paycheck withheld before they ever get to see it. This legislation begins the process of eliminating that burden and putting more money back in the pockets of hardworking Missouri citizens. Missouri has an opportunity to join a growing number of states that have eliminated the state income tax. These states are seeing increased competition for jobs, new residents, and investment in their states. It is clear that Missouri must pursue meaningful tax reform to remain competitive with those states, and now the voters of Missouri have a chance to do just that. This legislation also requires municipalities to reduce local taxes to offset new revenue that's generated, allowing municipalities to lower and roll back existing property tax levies. This measure is intended to provide meaningful property tax relief to Missouri residents and their families. And as the governor just stated, our work is still not done. We've got a couple days left to hopefully get some more meaningful property tax reforms to the governor's desk, and we will be very focused on that the next couple of days. We also passed a budget that spends less, invests wisely, and stays true to our conservative values. That's the promise we made to Missouri taxpayers, and that's exactly what we have delivered on. The Missouri Senate Republicans were committed to funding government services in a responsible way, and this year's state budget operations came in at just $4.1 billion under the fiscal year 2026 budget that was signed into law last year. Despite a tighter budget than last year, we still restored $79 million in disability services, $15 million in pregnancy resource centers, and prohibited DEI funding in higher education, and added new fraud, waste, and abuse staff to protect the integrity of Missouri's Medicaid program. Lastly, I'd like to thank the governor for his leadership and partnership throughout this process. His engagement, not just this year, but last session, has made a real difference in the legislature. And the results we achieved this session reflects what is possible when a governor and a General Assembly work collaboratively together. I'm proud of what our caucus and the House and the governor have accomplished this year. And with that, I know we'd be happy to take any questions. So I would be a little surprised if that bill passed this year. We were going to take a run at it yesterday. We thought that there were some negotiations between both caucuses in the Senate that may have created a path for that. As often is the case, those negotiations sort of broke down last night, and we weren't able to get to a resolution. So we do intend to bring up an education bill actually shortly, later today, but it will not have the A through F provisions as a part of it.
Yeah, we signed an executive order on A through F, so we'll still believe it's appropriate for our parents to understand what grade the district is receiving that their kids are going to school at, and we'll continue to pursue that and work with the legislature as we have to in the future if that can't get done this year.
So Senator Washington's ag education bill. We previously passed the Senate version of that. It's over in the House. Senator Washington is going to offer, I think, a floor substitute that has some additional provisions in it, but that's the base bill, the House version of that bill.
Yeah, it's way too early to say that. As you know, they just passed it about a week ago today. I'm grateful for both the House and Senate and leadership in both those chambers, and our two budget chairs, I should say, Dirk Deaton, who has served the state wonderfully. I'm a big fan of his, and I wish him the best of luck in the future. And Rusty Blackby in his first year, both those two gentlemen did a great job working with their members. And we'll go through the budget. It's big, as you know, and a lot of items and a lot of complexities in it. So we don't have any decisions on what will stay or not stay, but we'll be looking at it closely.
Governor, have you decided what ballot you want to put this income tax elimination plan on?
Yeah, as you know, there's several questions on the ballot this fall. We've got until, I believe, the end of next week to make those decisions, and we're looking at that every day. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that there's multiple questions that will appear in the fall ballot, and we're trying to figure out what that landscape looks like.
What are your thoughts about the Lieutenant Director letting that on some changes to voter rolls until the new caucus makes a decision on the acquisition?
I didn't get that question. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. Thank you for repeating that. I'm getting old. My hearing's going. As you saw the Supreme Court this week, the Missouri First map is the law of the land. And my expectation is clerks across the state and all counties will follow the law of the land. Not with, the map conversation's been out there for a long time. It was voted on last year. There's been plenty of people to look at what this is, what the map is about, where the boundaries are, et cetera. Secretary of State Hoskins has a lot of responsibility. I respect the timing that he determines is appropriate for that.
Secretary of State Hoskins had actually broached the possibility of you calling a special session this fall to do another redistricting to go after the first district. Is that even on your mind right now? And is that, if that is something that is on your mind, would that be a 2027?
Well, as you know, things in this building change hourly sometimes, but no, right now, I think we would like Missourians to have a chance to vote on the Missouri First map.
The Supreme Court upheld the practice of the Missouri First map, but the court said that it was impossible to know whether HB 1 was in effect or whether it's or whether it could be suspended. Obviously, the review process is still going. So, given that, how can you feel comfortable saying it's the law of the land? And Secretary Hoskins said the same thing as the leader.
Well, Greg, thank you for asking that question. It's a long story. The decision this week to me was clear. I'm not an attorney. Senator Luetkemeyer might want to speak to this. But what the decision that came out of the Supreme Court, I believe, clearly put forward a path for Missourians to be able to vote on that map as the General Assembly put forward.
The Senate seems so far, it seems fairly routine, out of context. It's not running like a train on derailed track.
Well,
In other words, when I was there, it wasn't very good. So I just kidding.
there was a lot of hard work behind the scenes that went into that, a lot of conversations. Obviously, we got off to a bit of a slower start at the beginning of this session. That didn't surprise me, and I don't think it surprised most people. But look, we had a bunch of candid, honest conversations with our Democratic colleagues, worked with them collaboratively on a few pieces of legislation that were important to them that we were agreeable to as well, to get those across the finish line, and we're able to come to a harmonious end. I would be remiss if I did not specifically mention Senator Weber, who has really been the tip of the spear for their caucus and making sure that that relationship between the two caucuses functions well. And he has done yeoman's work this year to make sure that we've had a productive session.
What did Senator want, and what did you do?
Look, I don't think this is unique to Senator Moon. I think this is true for everybody. We get to this point in session, and a lot of people have legislative priorities that are right at the finish line, and they just come up short. There were some things that Senator Moon, I think, wished had progressed a little further than they did, that did not and are not going to make it across the finish line. And he was expressing some of that frustration. The conversation that I had with him is just very simply, look, like, if you have a problem with a particular bill, by all means, get up on it. I mean, people are going to be doing that the last 2 days of session, but to just carte blanche say no to everything, I felt like it would help him advance his future legislative priorities with many of his returning colleagues next year if he took a more strategic approach about how he was going to stand up on particular bills. He thought about that and then came back to the floor and agreed to sit down.
Governor, on the income tax, those, is the success or failure of that going to determine the success or failure of the session?
No, I don't think so. First of all, I believe it will be successful. I want to say that. I think Missourians generally will agree to wanting to be able to keep more of their money. But as you know, and I said in the very beginning, we campaigned on this. We looked Missourians in the eye and said, we believe this is a good thing for our state, it makes us competitive, lets you keep more of your own money. And we believe we should have put a plan. We did put a plan forward that's responsible and forward that for Missourians to decide on.
Governor, on the budget, at the beginning of the year, you put out this reappropriation bill that you were going to hold. The budget is about $300 million general revenue below the budget you proposed. Should the organizations, the colleges, and universities, anybody had something in this operate from that no, they're not going to get it? Or did that extra $300 million allow you more leeway? Maybe some of those will go.
Well, like I said, the budget has multiple pieces to it, and it's very complex of what's going to look like. I can't tell you again, I'm grateful for the House and Senate and the options that they gave us. Rudy, anytime that we have what some people would call extra money, I also say, Missourians don't expect us to spend every dollar that they send us. So we need to be fiscally responsible and understand next year's challenges are going to be significant as well. And we'll take all that into account as we review it. I'm sorry? We haven't made a decision on that. Follow up on your question before, the reason the Senate ran well this year is because Tony and Cindy worked very hard to develop some relationships, and I did not want that to pass, Kurt, so thank you. Next, Superintendent, we have a great DESI board, and we'll work with them to, I'm relatively sure, this is new news, as you know, they'll work together to look at some sort of search committee, both internal, external, nationally. We want a man or woman who believes that we need to, public education is a cornerstone of what people pay taxes for, and we are a friend of public education, but it doesn't have to be an either or. There can be options out there for parents to choose from, and we're hopeful that they look for somebody who shares that. Carla Essinger, by the way, did a great job. I have the utmost respect for her. I know that Tony does. We both serve with her in the Senate. She's a fantastic person, and I'm very sad to see her leave, but she's worked in public service a long, long time, and she deserves to spend time with her family. There are some openings on the board. We're looking at individuals before Carla's announcement, and I think it's safe to say probably in the next, several months, we'll look at some board members with some open, especially the open slots.
Do you have any expectation of calling lawmakers back, right?
Not at this time. I think they're all ready to go home, so that wouldn't be a popular move. But at this time, there's nothing that rises to that level, in my opinion. But as I mentioned before, things change. Thank you guys for being here today. Thank you, Sasha.